Oh, ow.
Okay, here we rock and roll. Here we go. You are looking at a chunk of land that was very scarcely populated by the French because, as you know from previous classes, the French did not treat this chunk of land as something to populate. It was a chunk of land that they looked to exploit for the animal skins. So a few voyagers would come over here, a few hunters. They would mesh with the local native tribes. They'd hunt, and they'd sell their animal skins back in Europe. They exploited the waterways. You and I happen to be living next to the largest depository of fresh water on Earth. Nowhere else on Earth there's so much exposure to fresh water. And this is another kind of fun fact. Basically, the middle of the continent is right about here. And there's an international water port right there. It's called Duluth. Find another middle of the continent water port. South America doesn't have it. Africa doesn't have it. That's deserts. Asia doesn't have it. Europe, nobody else has a port in the middle of the continent. And yet it's kind of cool because you go to Duluth and there are boats from all over coming in and leaving the port, which is kind of amazing. And how did that happen? Well, this river feeds into the Great Lakes, which is kind of a miracle of geological proportions here. Anyway, the French used that river and those Great Lakes to send stuff out back to France. This, of course, would not last. The British would soon take the stuff over. But this is a slide which talks about, well, what type of government existed. The French, it's not like they had absolutely no organization here. They organized it in a way, and maybe in a way that made it susceptible to loss. So it was all royal. As opposed to yesterday, you learned about the 3 different types of British colonies. Yes? You remember?
Royal, charter, and proprietary.
Very good. Royal, charter, and proprietary. Do know the difference. This is one giant colony. It's one colony, as opposed to the British 13 colonies. There was no representative assembly. There was no local authority. There were no Mayflower compacts or fundamental orders of Connecticut or Pennsylvania frame of government. That just simply didn't exist. Partly because there simply wasn't the population necessary to make those things exist. Now, did they have cities? Sure, Montreal was a major city. Quebec was a major city. And there were some other cities. But they were really more like trading posts rather than areas. I'm selling my van. So just take it in the bids. We'll be swimming in it pretty soon. 203,000 miles. AC still works. Not too much rust. That's how I advertised it. Not too much rust. So I'm just flooding the cars right now. I'll wait. Let them, get hungry and hungrier. Okay. There were no trials by jury. There simply wasn't the population present there to have these things in this area. Now, there were Indians, lots of Indians, and it says consequences for Indians. What were the consequences of a very low population and, I guess, direct control, but really not much French investment? Now, what I'm asking you to do right now is to think about how this would impact Wahapa. Have I ever told you about Grandpa Potter? No. My grandfather, Maurice Potter, fabulous athlete, just ask him. Very, very deaf, stone deaf, and he talked funny. Now, I can talk about Grandpa Potter because I'm part of deaf culture. It's my culture. They're my people. So I get to make fun of them. You cannot make fun of them. You are not part of deaf culture. You can make fun of your culture, but not other people's culture. My grandpa would talk like this. He had a dog named Tippy, and this is him saying, Tippy, come here. Go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. And when I was in high school, Grandpa Potter would ask about athletic things. I was a pretty good wrestler. So he'd say, da, da, Whap, whap. And that's him saying, hey, how'd you do in that tournament last weekend? Grandpa talked funny. And so in honor of Grandpa Potter, I say wahapa. Wahapa. Wah, W-A, dash, ha, H-A, dash, pa. Wah-ha-pa. It's not Indian language. It's Grandpa Potter language for what happened. What happened as a consequence of the natives having the French as their European partner? Can anyone guess the important impact of the French being the ones in the blue area in the near future? Anyone want to make a bold prediction about how that would turn out? That's money talking right there. You hear it? Cha-ching. That's probably another 10, 20 bucks
Well,
from a band.
well, the dark blue is no longer part of France, but the lighter blue is now
Okay, so
Canadian, French Canadian.
that's true.
So that's
You're right. Maybe I'm not phrasing the question well.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Do we know a little bit about history?
No.
Do we know what ends up happening?
Oh, wars.
Yes, wars. And how would that turn out for the Native Americans that allied themselves with the French?
Oh, they'd have to fight British.
Uh-huh. So how'd that go?
Bad.
Bad for them. All right. So the natives that allied themselves with the French, because of the lack of population and the lack of real organizations that are present in the blue area, the French are an ally, kinda, but they'll end up paying the consequences, as in losing wars to the British and the British allies. And then the other major consequence is the diseases that once again ravaged the natives that were in the blue area. If you're wondering what's the difference between the dark blue and the light blue, I don't know.
It's just kind of like the border.
Well, see, the dark blue is Farah, Louisiana. French Louisiana. French Louisiana. And the light blue is so there you go. Any questions? Very good. I introduced this concept 2 days ago. No, yesterday. Was it? What day is today?
Wednesday.
What country is this? So, as I pointed out a couple days ago or yesterday, the original 13 colonies are here and the French colonies are there. Let's go back to this map. Here are the original British 13 colonies. Here are the French colonies. And we already established this idea that if you were going to protect your territory, wouldn't you put military installations along the border? Doesn't that make sense? If there's a nutcase madman out in the hallway, I wouldn't set up shop about here to protect you. That would be dumb. I'd be at the door. And actually, I'd be in my car. To protect the English colonies, British colonies. By the way, it is during this war that we stop saying English and we start saying British. Because during this time, right in the middle of the 1700s, England invades and takes over Scotland and Wales and part of Ireland, creating this new thing called Britain. That's the difference. All English are British, but not all British are English. Are any of you like totally confused right now?
Kind of.
We got it? It's pretty simple. All right, so Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales.
Okay.
All these people are English. These people are Scottish. These people are Welsh.
Oh,
These
okay.
people are Irish. And then England invades and takes over Scotland. And England takes over Wales. And England takes over a little chunk of Ireland. I am now shading in the area that became Britain. That is Britain. So it happened at this time. So they become British colonies. Okay, so the British are going to put their forts along the border, and the French are going to do the same thing. But now you have British forts right in close proximity to French forts. Now, I teased this yesterday, but look at this fort right here. They wisely put a slightly dark green next to a slightly lighter green shade. Brilliant. So you can tell easily the difference. But can you tell, where is Fort Necessity?
Not on their side.
In their meaning, in whose area? The French. Fort Necessity was a British fort. It was a British fort mistakenly built in the French area. So now if you're the French, what just happened? They just invaded us. So the French responded by attacking the fort. Now the British were under the impression that their fort was in the British area. So in the British mind, what just happened? They just attacked us. And now war erupts, okay? This was the trigger event, not the cause. Later on in this class, hey, what am I doing right now? Synthesizing. Later on in this class, we will look at World War I. Have you ever been taught by any previous history teacher that one of the causes of World War I was some archduke getting assassinated? Oh, baloney. You think countries would go to war over one guy? That was the trigger event. That was just the spark. There were other big causes. France and England, Britain, are not going to go to war over a little fort. It's just the trigger event. What's the war over? Guess. Land. Who's going to control North America? Fun little fact. Do you know who built Fort Necessity? George Washington. All right, very good. Young George Washington. You talked about it yesterday. Okay. So, is it on? Is it on? Is it on? Is it on? Oh yeah, it's on. Oh yeah. This is a test question. I'm telling you, one of the test questions is on? Question mark? Is on? Is on? And the correct answer is, I don't know which one it'll be for you. Oh yeah. Is on. That is the right answer. There's another option. Yes. Another one, definitely. Those are wrong. This is right. Is on? Oh yeah, it's on. Does anyone not know what is on? Oh yeah, it's on refers to? What the crap are we talking about? You have learned so many words today. Go run to your foreign language teacher and say, I learned Wahapa, and oh yeah, he had a dog named Tippy, but he didn't say Tippy, he said and Tippy would usually run away because he was a poodle. Poodles are dogs. Are we fighting? Oh yeah, we're fighting. Let's roll. That's what that means. The French and Indian War had another name in Europe. It was called the 7 Years' War. While they're fighting over here in North America, Britain and France are also fighting over there in Europe. By the way, they're also fighting in India, indicating to you that this was truly a world war. In fact, it's the first true world war. This is World War I. You wanted to go that way. We are right now in like World War IX. Blood labels, right? This is the Ohio River Valley right here. That's where it started. There's the year, 1759. George Washington was the guy who built Fort Necessity. And what the British noticed as they were sending soldiers over to the colonies to fight this war was that the colonists were lukewarm about supporting this. Yay, Britain. Right? They're kind of waving the flag. This is great. Go us. There isn't this incredible patriotism, and that is because increasingly the colonists didn't see themselves as British. They saw themselves as not British. Now, we're not quite at the point where we can identify how we see ourselves, right? You know, as freshmen, you come to this school and you can definitely say, I'm no longer a middle school student, but can you say I'm a Spartan? Not quite there yet, right? You don't feel quite part of the building yet. But then you join sports, and then you get into student council, and then homecoming's usually a really good gelling moment, and then you're in it, right? That's what's going on here. They just got out of middle school. They aren't quite part of the high school yet, not yet. And they fight these wars. And look, there's red explosions and blue explosions, and there's some boat that goes a long way. Wow. And the red represents what? British victories. Yeah, British victories, and the blue represents French victories. So you can see that it's kind of back and forth, and armies go here and armies go there, and we're not going to fight it. We're not going to fight the French and Indian War. We'll skip that part. We'll go straight to two things. One, it was part of a bigger thing. I told you that already. So here's one area of fighting. Only they don't say area of fighting when you talk about wars. Anyone know? This is later on during World War II. Hey, what am I doing? Very good. We will study the European of World War II. The front is a very good part. You're almost there because the theater. Very good. A theater area of fighting. The European theater had two fronts, right? The Western Front and then the Soviet front. This is the American theater. Meanwhile, they're fighting in India, the Indian theater. Meanwhile, they're fighting in Central Europe, the European theater. This is all the same war. It's all the same conflict, Britain and France going toe-to-toe. Who's going to be the dominant European power? So this is part of a bigger conflict here, and I've listed for you all the areas, including the Caribbean, and then another place called the That's a mistake on my part. That end should be there. And the Philippine, which should say Philippines. The Philippines are these series of islands right here. Okay. All part of a bigger war. What the French did was they focused on winning control of Europe. So they're all in on Europe, which allowed them to be exploited over there in North America. This is not a European history class, so I'm not going to bother covering major European battles. Get into a major European history course when you're in college. I'm sure that'll be fascinating. The Albany Plan of Union is really, in my opinion, one of the major impacts of this war. The Albany Plan of Union was named after a city called Plan. No, the city was called Albany. Albany. Anyone ever heard of Albany? Today, what is Albany? It's the capital of New York City. That's exactly right. Okay, so it is a city. And in Albany, representatives of most of the colonies met during this war. And at that meeting, they said, all right, let's fight commonly, right? The French are one thing. They're one army. Should we be 13 separate armies, or should we have one commanding officer? Should we be one army? Napoleon, who was a thing a little bit later than this, loved fighting allies, loved fighting when countries would ally with each other. Because all he would do is attack one of the countries, and then he knew that country would become resentful because the other country wasn't helping them, and then they would start fighting each other. Loved fighting allies. Well, that's what the 13 colonies are saying. Should we fight as one, or should we fight separately? And the answer was separately. I'm not from Virginia. I'm from New York. The New York Army will fight separately. Okay. Now, they said we'll fight together, but it didn't happen. They said we'll fight together, And then they all went back to their respective colonies and fought separately. So you see, it's demonstrating what I'm trying to argue, and that is that while they didn't see themselves as British anymore, they also did not see themselves as Americans. Yet. Okay. The Albany Congress, so the people that met in Albany, formed a legislative body. And they said, all right, we're going to pay the soldiers that join the army through a tax. We're going to raise an army. We can make treaties. We can control trade between the colonies. This is all lovely, isn't it? You are looking, well, I'm going to let one of you try and figure out what you're looking at. You are looking at the first attempt. ... Can you figure it out? What are you looking at? What is the Albany Plan of Union a first attempt at? It didn't work, but it's the first time. Very good. This is the first attempt at an American national government thing. This is version 1. First time the colonies would try and kind of unite together as one thing. And it did not work. But now the egg's been cracked, right? The idea has been posited. Are we a thing? Are the 13 colonies a thing? Are we a we? Oh, we. All right. Political cartoon that ran at the time. So there's some bald guy saying, join or die, as in join together. Together we can beat the French. Now, in hindsight, separately they beat the French. There's something you should know about the French now. Get used to this statement. The French lose. Get used to that. A whole lot of wars. When the Americans in World War II looked back and saw the French coming, they're like, oh no. We were about to win. Here come the French allies. That's a joke. All right. Any questions here? A lot to see here. That took longer than I thought. I thought we were going to have a lot of time.
They also spent the morning saying hello, how are you, everyone?
I did, but you and I made a connection there.
Yeah, you did
You
that
beat
too.
me in the Finger World Series, but I'll get you next year. Train a little harder. I'm going to go home and play my dog. I'm going to tape one of those little plastic doll hands to my dog and say, shake. No, that won't work because it'll be the same number of fingers every time. I'll think about it. Okay. Right. So, broken record time here. You might have kind of appreciated the pattern. What's going on here is, so you should be, I'm getting lost here now. You should have a good faith attempt at paragraph number 4, which means you've revised paragraph number 3, which means what I want you to do for the remainder of the hour, 25 minutes of guided peer help. Here you are with your peers who can help you. Reread your 4th paragraph with a fresh set of eyes the way I would read it. Now, paragraph number 4 would be the historian you agree with, which means there's one historical example in there, not 2, right? You don't have to prove and then disprove. You just prove, right? So in many ways, the 4th paragraph is easier than the previous 2 paragraphs, if you're writing it that way. Okay? Then give it to someone. Someone, read it, revise it, make suggestions, point out inconsistencies, say, right on it, this don't make no sense. I don't understand what your point is here. Like, for example, is their historical example really proving what they think it's proving? to say, I read one of these yesterday, to say evidence of this is Columbus. And then that was it, right? And I'm reading like, but where's the evidence? You didn't prove anything. I see a name. It's a lovely name. That's not evidence. You got to tell me the story. Tell me the story. Demonstrate you understand what's going on. Tell me the story, okay? And then analysis fits right in there. And then do it again. Have someone else look at it and get it back. Fix it for tomorrow and have a good faith attempt at paragraph 5, which is your second topic for your historian you agree with if you're writing it that way, right? Also in your little world, there are 2 keys that are due Friday, plus there are 2 keys after that. And that keeps going, so you can be attacking those. Lexington paper is due Friday. Yes, very good. Not the paper, the worksheet. Questions 1 through 7 for all of the witnesses is due Friday. So that's a real co-op thing between you and Lindy, me and Lindy, right? So we're kind of working on it in here and you're writing it in there. So you got to be ready with that so that I can tell Lindy, okay, go. Start writing that bad boy. Also, I'm under the impression, is this correct, that in Lindy's class, you were starting to look at they say, I say statements, right? Okay, which is very useful as far as analysis is concerned. That's what analysis is. Here's what they're saying. Here's what I think it means. That's what analysis is, right? Any questions? Put on a little Mozart, makes you smarter, and away we go, right? Rock and or roll. Okay.